And slowly open our eyes.
To what extent is happiness a choice?
¿Qué punto la felicidad es una elección?
And also, how do I know that I'm happy and still anchored? And I'm not just like entertaining myself outside.
Y no me estoy dejando entretener por afuera.
Okay. So we're not in pursuit of happiness.
Estamos persiguiendo la felicidad.
We're in pursuit of consciousness, which is a joy.
Es dicha.
It's not at one extreme then another.
No es un extremo y el otro.
And it's surrendered to the moment.
La rendición al momento.
You know, joy
La dicha
can be sad,
puede también ser triste.
it can be angry,
Puede estar enojada.
but that experience of consciousness is permanent. And the other emotions are fleeting. They move very quickly. They're like clouds. They're not the sky. The sky is the joy, the perfection, the connection. And stop looking for happiness, because it's always talking about a future moment. We always think it's going to be in a future moment. And it has to be in this moment. You know, I always use the metaphor of going up the mountain, no? You're going up the mountain, up the mountain, up the mountain. And if all you care about's the peak, and you're not enjoying the journey in each moment, you know, there might be an avalanche at the top and you're dead. You know, and so people are always so focused on the goal, but the goal's a moment. It's a moment. You have to enjoy each step. You have to enjoy the view. You have to be present. You have to be treading lightly and carefully. You have to be here. And this is the thing. This is a very Western concept. Happiness is in the future. When I have money, when I have a different partner, when I have a bigger house. And it's so illusionary because it never comes. It never comes because you get the bigger house. Oh, want a bigger one. You know, it's eternal. But if you're enjoying this moment, you can be anywhere. You can have multitudes of houses or whatever you want, or you can travel the world, but it's not going to define your happiness, because happiness is here now. I have to be here now. I have to be happy with me, because it doesn't matter where you are. You know, when we moved, I've said this before, I know, because there's only so many examples I can give in my few years of existence. So when we moved to Colombia, and I remember picking this place to build the centre because it was such a paradise. I'd never seen anything so beautiful in South America as this. There was the Caribbean Ocean. We were right here. Private beach, divine. Behind, Sierra Nevada, with a snow peak. A river coming down from the Sierra Nevada to the ocean. Okay, it was just, and jungle. You know, palm trees, mangoes, everything. It was visually perfect. And I thought, if we build here and people are not happy, they have to realize that they're the problem. You know, you are the problem. And everyone that arrived, do you think they were happy? No, because they brought their discontent with them. I don't like the jungle. I don't like eating pineapple. There might be a snake. You know, people always have an excuse to be miserable. And yet I've seen children kicking a coconut
y pegándole, pateando un coco,
instead of a football
en vez de una pelota de fútbol,
because they don't have any money,
porque como no tienen dinero,
living in perfect joy.
y viviendo perfectamente felices ahí.
And we have to let go of this idea
Que soltar esta
that happiness will be in a future moment.
felicidad va a estar en el momento.
They're not kicking the coconut thinking,
No estaban pateando el coco,
oh, I need a football.
necesito una pelota de fútbol.
No, they're just kicking the coconut.
Estaban pateando el coco.
And this is present moment awareness.
Conciencia de momento.
This is being in the moment. And it doesn't mean we have dreams. Of course we can have dreams. This is part of our evolution. But we don't have to suffer our dreams. We have to use them as opportunities to create, to give, to be the best of us. Not to find fulfillment, but to give the best of me. And what happens, happens. And this is what's important.
Can you talk about perpetual consciousness?
Initially, we're all out. Everything's external. We're perceiving everything through duality. And then at some point in our lives, we decide to come back to that internal place of unity. So we start using the facets, we start doing the system, and we start to connect with consciousness. In the beginning, the head is controlling everything because our bodies, our memories, everything's within us. And this is keeping us on the surface of the mind. But as we start to go deeper, this stress starts to leave. We start to liberate the emotions, the traumas, the stress in the body. All of it starts to be eliminated. And we start to find this internal vibration, which is love consciousness. We're still watching the thoughts, and the thoughts are controlling us. But at some point, it becomes so deep, so deep, so deep, everything changes. The consciousness starts to be more powerful. We start to sit in the consciousness and we start to witness the thoughts. Before, the thoughts were the puppeteer. They'd pull a string and we react and we respond and we're affected and we're offended and we're this and we're that. But when we perpetually anchor in consciousness, we start to see the thoughts as something separate from us. It's not who we are. And we start to identify with the witness. And this is perpetual consciousness. I am this. This is my human experience. This is my permanence. This is my divinity. That is my transitional, evolving human experience. Yeah, my body, my thoughts, my ideas, the world, everything is external, but I am that. I am the perpetual consciousness. I am the eternal consciousness. Now, the irony is that once we stabilize that, it's always there. It doesn't matter if we have thoughts or emotions. We're not identified with them. You know, occasionally we have a little dramita, but basically that's there and we know that that's it. And then the next step
Después el siguiente
is that moves into everything.
eso penetrando todo.
And you experience that energy in
Y
everything.
experimentas esa energía en todo.
That permanence,
Esa permanencia.
internal,
Internamente,
within and without.
dentro y fuera.
Within and without.
Adentro y fuera.
And that's when you perceive the
Y
perfection
es ahí cuando percibes la perfección
within the duality,
dentro de la dualidad.
instead of constantly fighting to change it.
En vez de estar constantemente peleando para cambiarla.
Okay, so that's perpetual consciousness. When I do the course,
Cuando yo hago el curso,
I always use it like an anchor in a boat, no?
siempre lo utilizo como el ejemplo del ancla en un barquito.
Because a boat
Porque el barquito
without an anchor,
sin el ancla
it feels safe
se siente
when everything's calm.
todo está calmo.
But when the storm hits,
Pero cuando la tormenta
the boat's thrown everywhere, no?
el bote va para todos lados.
But when it's anchored
Cuando está
in something permanent,
claro en algo
it still sustains its stability.
sigue sosteniendo su estabilidad.
Yeah? Good. Next question.
Hi, Isha. In the witnessing,
En el testimonio
I felt that I really wanted to be in the moment where I was, exactly where I was.
realmente quería estar en el momento.
And like many times in my life, I felt like I don't really want to be where I am. I always want to be somewhere else, in another moment, in another place.
No quiero estar
Could you talk about that?
en esa parte.
You know, once we start to really experience consciousness,
Una vez que comenzamos a experimentar la conciencia,
we're not trying to escape ourselves.
vamos a tratar de escaparnos.
If you want to be somewhere else all the time,
Estar en algún otro lugar todo el tiempo,
it's because you can't be with you.
porque no puedes estar contigo.
But when you're happy with yourself,
Cuando estás feliz contigo,
when you're in the present moment,
estás en el momento presente,
when you're enjoying your energy
estás disfrutando por
and the perfection of everything around you, and appreciating that and feeling gratitude for that, you're happy in each moment because each moment is so abundant. And in order to have that experience, you have to be inside. If you're external,
tú estás en lo externo,
nothing's long enough,
nada dura lo suficiente,
it becomes boring.
tornan algo aburrido.
If you're external,
Si estás en lo externo,
you can be looking at the most beautiful ocean,
puedes estar mirando el mar más hermoso,
you take a photo,
sacar una foto,
and then you want to go and do something else.
quieres ir a hacer algo.
If you're internal,
Si estás conectado,
you can be absolutely enjoying the
puedes
moment.
estar absolutamente disfrutando el momento.
Every aspect. The movement of the wind, the smell of the sea, the waves, whatever's transpiring in front of you. And you can be perfectly there in harmony with totality. But when you're here,
Pero cuando estás aquí,
you can't stay there for long
no puedes estar ahí
because this needs activity.
porque la mente necesita actividad,
It has to feed.
tiene que alimentar.
It's like a piranha, no? It's and now what? And now what? And now what am I going to eat? It's like that. Yeah? But when you're anchored here, you see that the perfection of each moment. You know, people that are not experiencing consciousness through internal work often experience this when they're creating. Like great artists or singers, musicians, sculptors, they're so in the moment and it's like they're channeling their divinity, no? And in those moments, they're perfectly there, creating wonderful works of art. But those works of art are coming through.
Viene como a través de ellos.
You know, most people that create beauty
Crean belleza,
create it like this
creado así,
because they just open as a channel.
simplemente se abren como canal.
There's no thought,
No hay pensamiento,
there's just creativity.
está la creatividad.
But after that,
Pero después de eso,
there's another level.
hay otro nivel.
Being creative,
El ser creativo
that's wonderful.
es hermoso.
But after that,
Pero después de eso,
there's another level. And it's the roaring silence. And that internal beauty, that internal light, surpasses any great work of art. Because there's nothing more complete than that experience. That experience of your divinity. And that's the next step. And then you bring that out into everything. Heaven on earth.
My question's about music. I'm a musician, or I love playing music. And I have a difficult time letting go for the 6 months because I'm really afraid that I'll lose the skills or the capability to take it into the world once I've anchored in consciousness. Because when I think of having to really completely let it go, it feels like a really deep grief. So how do I deal with this?
Okay, so you're really identifying with form, no? Because anything real can't be lost. You know, you're not going to lose your skill. In fact, it's going to be enhanced because you're expanding your consciousness. But we're focused on you finding something more. You know, I used to create a lot of music. I used to sing, I used to write, I used to perform. And when I started to find profound consciousness, I stopped doing that. I stopped listening to that. I can still do it, but it's not the most important thing for me. And in order to get to that point, I had to let it go. That was one of my attachments. My music, my career, my this, my that, me. But it wasn't giving me freedom. You're looking for freedom. So don't get into this duality of, oh, I'll never play the piano again. You know, I'm going to lose my skill or my guitar, or, oh, my voice is going to close. It's not true. All of your creative capacity will be enhanced tenfold, much more. Okay, so just trust in that. And see this conflict that always wants to be doing something different. You know, you can walk around and sing as much as you want. We're not going to say, don't sing. But your focus has to be going in. You know, in order to experience something new, you have to let go of the old. And that doesn't mean the old's going to disappear, especially if it's something creative and wonderful. It will only be enhanced. You know, I found that when I stopped singing, because after, like 5 years after I got enlightened, I did produce some music. And my voice was much better. Because I'd lost all that stress, I'd cleaned everything, and everything improved. I was just writing about different things. I was writing about consciousness and beauty and perfection instead of my romantic worries and woes, and which really was so boring. You know, humans love it, but when I listen to it now, I'm like, oh my God, how dramatic. But for me, it was therapeutic too, because it allowed me to release a lot of stuff. But we keep evolving, no? We keep going to a new level. And you're always moving forward. So you have to trust in that. You're moving forward. And your ego will always say, oh, but you won't be able to sing. Or you won't be able to play guitar. Your fingers are going to get rigid. None of it's true. None of it's true. It's only 6 months. You can't even have a baby in 6 months.
I would like you to talk about when we can let go of the things that give us security externally and to bring back the trust inside towards ourselves. Can you talk about the ability to let go and that trust that comes from inside?
You know, to have the capacity to let go and trust is the greatest joy. And I started learning that when I was very young, because I lost a lot of people very quickly. And I was very attached to everything. I was very earthy and very attached. I was attached to how things were, and I held on to things for dear life. Okay, and then I learned that when I let go, something better came. And then I'd let go, and something better came. And then I'd let go, and something better would come. And I started to trust in that. Not completely, but when I let go of everything, everything came. And that was the scariest moment of my life. I was 38 years old. I've been working since I was 15, and I let go of everything. Everything. And I jumped into the void. And it was the greatest thing I ever did. But how do you get to that point? How do you get to that point? Well, for me, it was suffering. Suffering took me there. Because I got sick of depending on the outside. Sick of asking the outside to love me, to complete me. Always balancing everything, saving everyone. And that fear of abandonment that gripped me, my Achilles tendon, I couldn't live with that anymore. I decided that was it. If I have to rely on the outside for my happiness, I will never be happy. And boom, that's when I changed. And I did whatever it took to get to here. And that's the system. And it's not that you have to abandon anything. And it's not that everyone wants to get enlightened. But at some point, you have to let go of childish things. And what are they? Suffering, the victim, control, attachment. These are all childish things. Powerful people have internal security. Powerful people trust in themselves. Powerful people are open to receive, but they don't live in doubt. They trust in the outside and they flow with the outside. But ultimately, they trust in themselves because they are the source of love. It's not because they have a big ego and, you know, I can control the world. It's quite the opposite. It comes from an internal love and security. And this is freedom. This is freedom. Because it's not balanced externally. It's balanced internally. Once you have it internally, you can't lose anything. And the funny thing is that once you get to that point, every change is positive, but more positive. Before it was positive because it made you grow. But once you have the capacity to surrender to everything, it just keeps evolving. It just becomes better. It just keeps opening. So you want to get to that point. You know, don't hold on to the little sculita, the little kiosco. Open yourself. You could create anything. Don't hold on to your rocks.
How to overcome the need of approval and where it's coming from?
Well, it comes from insecurity. because you think love's outside. And this is what the whole process is for. You have to let it all go. You have to become so empty that everything moves through. But not because you're shut down or arrogant. Not for that. Just that you're vibrating in such a high frequency that nothing's touching. And this is the focus of consciousness. That emptiness, that joy, that capacity to open and receive everything as a gift to become empty.
I want to know if you can talk the responsibility in this human experience. It's hard to understand. If everything is an illusion, if nothing is truth, so where is our responsibility there?
You know, you ask about that. Exactly. It comes from the heart. It comes from an experience that you don't have yet, because you're still functioning in duality. And this is why I push you to start liberating. Speak your truth in every moment, because you're right. Nothing outside's important. It's duality. Everyone has a different opinion, because they're looking through two eyes. And when we look through two eyes, there's always a duality. But when we look through one eye, we experience unity. So how do I cultivate that capacity? I have to cultivate it internally. And that is my responsibility. That internal omniscience, that facet you like, that wisdom, that is my responsibility. And that has all the answers in each moment. It's not based in duality anymore. And unity and omniscience, it's simple. It's like nature. It just flows. It flows without thought. It flows without restriction. It's abundant. And it flows in harmony. Everything's harmonious. The destruction and the rebirth. But humans don't live in harmony. We are born and we fight against death because we don't know the greatness of who we are. We don't flow. We're not abundant because we're afraid. This is not responsibility. Responsibility is to live without fear. Responsibility is to know the greatness of who I truly am. The responsibility is to come home to ourselves. That is absolute responsibility. And then that responsibility moves out. People that love themselves love everything. They're harmonious. They flow. They create beauty. They look for beauty. And this is responsibility. It's not here. It's within the duality, looking through one eye, the eye of unity, the eye of the heart. Om, the Creator. That's it. Gracias.
Come visit our webpage for books, movies, and our wonderful retreat centers. Isha's simple yet powerful system is transforming lives around the world.